Nothing cuts deeper than betrayal by someone that we love. Abusive parents, unfaithful spouses, rebellious children, disloyal friends, conniving coworkers, and manipulative employees are among those who can inflict life's most painful wounds on our spirits. Sadly, many may never recover when someone they genuinely care about turns against them. They live the rest of their lives under a cloud of betrayal. Now, in Psalm 35, some of David's fondest friends had become his fiercest enemies. The setting is Saul's jealous pursuit of David. Now, the friends who betrayed him were fellow warriors with whom he had served in Saul's army. David had respected them, cared for them, and been loyal to them as they served the nation together. But now they had turned against him. And even worse, they were seeking his life, tracking him down like a common animal. Psalm 35 is a very emotional psalm. It is one of the psalms where the author prays for the destruction of his enemies. It offers many lessons that help when people that we love turn against us. You know, Jesus Christ taught us how we should treat our enemies. But David taught that we can come to God with our raw emotions and that we can trust and praise him even when our closest friends betray us. No stronger ally can be found than the Lord himself, the all powerful creator of the universe. And furthermore, nobody loves us more than the Lord who has made a covenant with us through the blood of his only begotten Son. Under fierce attack by unfaithful friends, David knew of only one place to turn. He called upon the Lord to defend him. Now, in verse 1, David employed two comparative images to express how he needed God to work on his behalf. First, he needed the Lord to defend him in a way that an attorney defends his client. You know, David passionately called upon God to contend or to be an advocate for him, to step up to establish his innocence of wrongdoing toward his attackers. And then, second, in verse 2, David called upon the Lord to fight for him as a mighty warrior battles for his nation or king. Now, he painted a very vivid picture of a champion in full armor, wielding his deadly weapons against the enemy. The shield and buckler were the defensive gear of warriors. Now, a shield is a small, round protector held by the warrior in hand to hand combat. And the buckler is the very large rectangular shield that he would crouch behind when fired upon from some distance. It was usually carried actually by a shield bearer. Now, in verse 3, David implored God to cast his spear and abruptly stop his pursuers in their course. Fearful and deeply distressed, David begged God to speak to his soul, to assure him of the Lord's salvation or deliverance. See, David desperately needed a personal word from God, to hear God say, I am your salvation. Now, in biblical usage, the pronoun I, when referring to the Lord, signifies the God who is promised to be the deliverer of his own, the covenant God, and the God who revealed himself as I am Yahweh. And I want you to notice here the connection between the images of the attorney and the warrior. By fighting against and destroying his enemies as a warrior, the Lord would vindicate David of the charges against him before all of Israel as an attorney, right? Well, brothers and sisters, David's response to Saul's attacks teaches a much needed lesson. There are times when we need to step back and let God fight our battles. When unjustly attacked, we feel a driving, compelling, unrelenting need to fight back and defend ourselves. And believe you me, I get it. All right. I'm Irish. I understand that feeling. However, we must prayerfully discern when God would have us do nothing in response and leave our vindication to him. When pursued by Saul, David refused to take matters into his own hands. On two occasions, he had the opportunity to slay Saul, but chose to spare his life, leaving Saul's judgment to the Lord. And when we know that we have done nothing wrong, we can boldly call upon God to defend us, as did David. In God's perfect timing, Saul was destroyed, vindicating David in the sight of Israel. Now, God sometimes chooses to visibly judge our enemies in this life, while at the same time, he openly blesses us, as he did David. Spiritual people will recognize this, and we will be vindicated in their sight. Now, on the other hand, some matters will not be cleared up until God's day of final judgment. When the unsaved stand before God in judgment, he will present the case against them in detail, including their sins against you. If your accuser is a genuine believer, the Lord will set everything straight at the judgment seat of Christ. I mean, God promises that he will always do right. We can trust him to deal with our enemies and to vindicate us when we live righteously.